Good afternoon. It's noon on Thursday, January 29th. We have almost completed the month of January and we're moving into February. I am so happy about that. This is Finding Truth Everywhere, courtesy of An Open Door. Um, and we are listening today because one of our regulars, Sandra Erickson, who hasn't joined us yet, uh, we got into a discussion about free will. And do we have free will? And there was uh, this desire that was expressed that there be some part of this experience that we have that is our free will, that where we get to be the chooser, we get to make the decision. And so I thought, well, because Francis Lucille is such a phenomenal teacher, let's see what he has to say about this. And so uh, we listened to it. Let me, without putting anyone on the spot, so I won't ask. I hope you all listened to it, but in case you didn't, I will do a summary of it, a fairly quick summary of it, and then I will open it up and ask, what do you think? Do we have free will? If we do, under what circumstances? And free will about what? And who is it that has free will? So Francis is giving one of his regular satsangs, and this woman raises her hand and asks a question, what is free will? Do we have free will? And Francis does his normal thing, which is let's be clear about whose free will we're talking about. So he says, does the body have free will? Is this self that we're talking about, is that the body? And so he asks, is the body free? And he points to the fact that no, the body is not free. It gets sick. We can't fly. We'd like to fly, but we can't fly. So many examples he gives and says, finally comes, he says, actually, the body is the slave of the mind. Because when we lift our arm, it's the mind that tells us to lift our arm. It's the mind that tells the body to move forward. So then he says, so the next question is the mind free? And he says, well, let's look at how we make decisions. How does the mind decide? And he says, the mind makes decisions, they come as thoughts. I think I'll move forward. I think I'll raise my hand. But he asks us to really investigate this. At the time of the thought, I'll raise my hand, who is the thinker? Is there actually a separate thinker there that we can identify? In the moment of decision, can we identify a separate thinker that makes the decision? And he says, no. No. The thought arises in consciousness and it is done. The thinker, who is like the clown that comes in at the end of the performance and takes the bow on the stage, the thinker of the thought comes after the thought, saying, I made this thought. But if we really investigate, and we do this investigation in the silence, we see that consciousness is the thinker, right? Only consciousness thinks, and only consciousness makes a decision. There is no separate entity that does any thinking or deciding. And then, so he says, no, the answer to the question, as a body or as a separate mind, do we have free will? And he says, no, we do not. We do not have free will. Freedom is in consciousness. That's where free will lies. It lies in consciousness as consciousness. So free will is the will that comes from freedom, the will of consciousness, not the separate person. And I see Livy has her hand raised, and I'll just finish up this and then we'll go into this discussion. And then he takes us a little deeper because he says, here's the beauty of free will. Free will is always free and it is always manifested. Because consciousness always gets what it decides as consciousness. It is the creator. Free will is always executed, he says. Free will is the will that comes from the freedom, the will of consciousness, to manifest. So then he says, most people think that there's a certain amount of free will that comes at the level of the individual. But he says that's not true. Only consciousness decides. And he says all events are cosmic events. He likes to use this word cosmic. Right? It's a cosmic event. It's the universe, right? Which is really just a name for something that's bigger than the mind can, the separate self can imagine. So he says all events are cosmic events and all come from freedom, which is universal. And he says, that's all I can say. That's all I can say about that. And then he takes us into a conversation about determination or predestination. And I won't say anything about that now, but if we get into that conversation, then we can talk about that. So let's open it up for questions. And Livy, you're up first.
And the only thing I wanted to share was, and I had shared this with Rana, that I was in my kitchen one night and all of a sudden my arms just started kind of going like this with the music. I did not, it was like after about a second or so, I was like, oh, my arms are moving, you know, and just the recognition that I didn't do that.
Right.
And I just said, well, God must want to dance. So I danced with God in the kitchen. But that was like the first time I noticed it. That was like, I did not do this. All of a sudden I was being lived. And so that's real. I just wanted to just share that was
Thank you.
like the first experience I had with, wow, you know. So I just wanted to share that experience.
Thank you. Yeah, another way of having the experience, which you've probably done before too, is just to sit in silence and watch as thoughts arise and ask yourself, who's behind that thought? Yeah, that's a real eye opener. Rana, you're up next.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Glad to be here. I loved your summary, Amy, or half of it, because the predetermination thing is a whole nother subject. It's a great place to stop just for a moment. What I am noticing is that there is understanding and clarity here when we're talking about this. There's also a great deal of relief, of guilt, because what popped in my mind was like, oh, wow, all those paths I've gone down was just consciousness trying it out, playing the game, whatever, right? But I also just want to notice the subtlety of the mind trying to make consciousness an object. When I hear a sentence like, is there free will of the individual? No, there's only consciousness. And I wrote what I really am. it decides, right? Right there, it's like, oh, but it's not an object. It's ethereal, but we can't talk about it unless we have words and symbols and language and all that. But I just wanted to bring up that subtlety of noticing again how the mind's like, it's not me and it's something I need to get, if that makes
Right.
sense.
It does.
Okay.
It does. It's very hard to live in this world with the attitude, it's all just happening, or with the understanding and with the expression, it's all just happening. It's very difficult in this world to maintain that consistent understanding. And who's maintaining it? Mel, you're up next.
Hi. Oh, hi, everybody. Great to be here. Hey, yeah, the implications are really profound in that no one is responsible for what appears to happen. So, how we get all worked up about, Trump and everybody else, whatever. But actually, it's all consciousness, right? So no one is really ultimately, there's no one there to be responsible. You see what I'm saying? So that's a huge burden off your shoulders. And liberating too, because then you can just enjoy the ride. And although sometimes, when you get triggered too, it's hard not to let that, not accept that and allow that just to go through you, without resisting. So it's the resistance. I'm just rambling, but it's the resistance that kind of yeah, keeps us, if we can relax and just recognize that. That's so liberating. That's the point of liberation, when you can let things just unfold. So,
It is. It is. And we're going to have to get through the second half of this, because what you just raised, Mel, um, is really just the first half of the equation, isn't it? It's the realization it's all just happening. But then not what does it mean, but does that mean there's no need to do anything? Does that mean there's no moral sense? Does that mean that we're all just observing and we can just basically sit in our own puddle? So the next part of the talk really addresses that in an interesting way.
but
Rana.
if that happens, isn't that also what's happening, right?
Right.
No,
That's exactly what I was going to say, Mel.
Yeah.
You know, he said something, consciousness chooses ignorance as another example of manifestation, and how liberating it is to be
Yeah.
able to choose ignorance as just one of the infinite possibilities. I wish May was here because, she loves the infinite possibilities. And that's kind of, consciousness enjoys itself as an object, he says. But of course, that's another, how do I know that it's enjoying anything? But the question, am I just going to be a blob and do nothing? No, a movement will come. And that's not me. That's that precious subtlety here. I could make a determination that I am not going to move. I guarantee you a movement will come. It just did. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, that is I was going to wait to get into the tantric discussion that he talks about, but we'll talk about it. Indigo, you're up next.
I'm sending you that. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm still learning this poem. Um, I love it. I love it. I love it because it's like it's perfect. Even the timing is perfect. everything is perfect. You know, I'm doing the 40-day program again, and it's so amazing because I just see everything differently. And I'm just like so in love with it right now. Um, just because I know everything that's happening is perfect. And I know I don't need to understand it. I know I don't. And I've also learned that if I hate it or whatever, just to be right there, to be right there in that and just enjoy it. And then and also too, I always learn just to tell God exactly how I feel. I tell God, fuck you, or whatever it is. Just to tell God whatever I feel and then say, okay, I'm done now. What do I do? And surrender and just say, okay, show me what to do. And at least for me, God always shows me what to do, and it comes with so much love. Um, and that just always just blows me away. Just
So it's consciousness showing itself what to do.
and it's love. Even though we don't see it, and I think we don't need to understand it. That's what I've learned too. Is like I don't need to understand it. I can let it just be whatever it is. Even if I hate it, it's okay. I just sit with it. And then I always just say, okay, God, what do I do? And then God always shows me what to do. And it's just, it's so, at least for me, it's so beautiful when I'm guided. And when I stop.
Yeah. Yeah. As Francis said, the beauty is that the will that comes from freedom is always executed. Thank you, Indigo. Thank you. John, you're up next.
Hi, everybody. Oh, that was so beautiful, Indigo. I mean, that was just over the top, over the top. Thank you so much. I just want to make a couple of quick comments there, and what you just said is when I stop. That is the big deal right there. When do I stop? You know, because that is the I nearly said nigger in a woodpile, but that's not an appropriate term. But it's really the question of this physical I. And you know what, Indigo, what I love most of all is your emphasis on the word perfect. That was so beautiful. It's like, to me, that's the definition of the purpose of consciousness. And to describe consciousness is like is a challenge in itself. I think Rona was talking about that. But for me, the word is synonymous with spirit. Spirit of God, the consciousness of God. What is God? The invincible unknown power that runs everything. And so basically, so if it had a purpose, one could have to say by only doing one thing, by tracking what it's already done.
Mm-hmm.
And what it's already done is it has brought into creation the human race. From what? I mean, we can only look to science for that, from electrons all the way up through the evolution of consciousness, up to the development, up to the creation of man, who was given allegedly the power to think and choose and make selections.
No, John. That's not what Francis is saying in this.
I'm not saying what Francis was saying at all.
Okay. I thought we were talking about the video. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't watch the video, but we are talking about the perfection of consciousness, and the definition of consciousness needs to be defined. And so, essentially, a form, and has put in appearance on this in this manifestation. A form has come into with certain abilities beyond the animal. So if you look, the animal has no ability to think and choose. It just responds. It responds
So
to the
are you saying that human beings have the ability to think and choose?
they were given a power beyond the animal, which is the ability to image. Because they would say you only have to go to theology to tell you that we're made in the likeness of this. We can make images. So that, but no animal can do that. All it can do is just follow its programs. But we have an ability to make images, whether you call that choice or free will or whatever. We have this to do that.
So
And
where does the ability come from? Does it come from the body? Does it come from the mind? Where does it come from?
it comes from the invincible X who created everything.
So is there any separation between consciousness and your consciousness?
No, it's there is only consciousness. There's nothing else exists but consciousness. That's all there is. But consciousness is evolving. I was trying to get to the point, the purpose of consciousness, because that's what Indego pointed to. It's pointing to perfection. And actually somebody else said it. It's operating. It's operating through these forms towards one goal. And it's the molding matter and consciousness so that both become a more perfect vehicle for perfect spiritual expression. That's the game. Perfect spiritual expression. That's the goal. And that's the journey. And so what we're doing in this whole thing is making our mistakes and walking forward. We are already that, but we don't know it. We're in form. So to have the spirit know itself, which is know thyself in form, is the object and purpose of consciousness. And I want to really acknowledge Indego for pointing out the perfection is the goal, is the goal, is the goal. That is the goal, and that is the struggle. But it's the recognition that we are already that points to the fact that, hey, all I could do is point to what I am not. And shows up in my who is somebody who said about my guilt, my release, my guilt. There's no guilt in that. Well, just the values have been subverted. Our values have been subverted. We're learning to value what's important, and it comes through messages exactly what Indego said. So anyway, that was my piece. So that's all I want to say about that.
Okay, thank you, John. So just to reiterate this for those who didn't watch it, what Francis is saying is there is no free will. There is no decider. There is no separate mind or separate person that is making any decision. All thoughts arise out of consciousness, and that is what we are. So consciousness is free to create an apparently separate self, but that separate self is never not consciousness, and it's never not perfect, as it is expressed in the moment. Even ignorance itself is perfect because it arises out of perfect consciousness. And so I'm going to just finish this, and then William.
But one thing you got to say there, Amy, is that thinker comes after the thought, which there's a gap, and that's the whole problem. We're in the gap, and that's where the problem is. So I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right, but consciousness
what's the gap, John? I'm not clear.
Well, you said it yourself. Thinker comes after the gap. It comes after the thought. So there's a gap between the thinker and the thought. So the thought arises. Where does that come from?
Consciousness.
Yeah, but consciousness itself is evolving through form. So it's consciousness getting to know itself.
How would perfection evolve, John?
Perfection is evolving through form. It's learning to know itself through form.
Does it ever not know itself?
It's eternal. It cannot never know itself, but it's making itself through form, through the evolution of consciousness. We can't deny that we live on a planet and we live in a world. So what is all this about? Is this the perfect consciousness in existence? I don't think so. But we're working our way through it, and we're being shown how to work our way through it through a divine process of which is operation. It's the operation manual that we have. To what? To what somebody said was the other day, like God, what does God stand for? And she is generating, operating, and destroying. That's the function. It builds things, it operates them, and destroys them. That's what we're dealing with,
Okay.
from my point of view.
Okay. So that point of view looks to an evolutionary point of view. It looks to things changing through time and getting better and evolving through time. If I can say that. Okay. So let's look at this question. Francis addresses this in this video. He says, let's look at the question of determination or predestination. And he said, one way to look at it is in the materialistic way. And he says, the body is made of matter, and matter is ruled by the laws of physics, and the laws of physics are deterministic. So we can say where the object in the sky will be, say a planet, that's already decided. And we can know where it will be in the future because of the law of physics, right? So in that way, there's no freedom. There's no freedom because the materialistic laws say everything is predetermined, right? The vantage point of the materialistic way of looking at things, it gives credence to the whole idea of time and causation, because causation must arise in time, right? But another way of looking at it is time is not real. There is no time. It's part of the dream, right? But only the dreamer in the dream has freedom, and the dreamer can change the dream. Therefore, the dream is not predetermined, right? But what happens in the dream is not decided by the dream itself. What happens in the dream is beyond time. What happens in the dream is beyond time, right? And he says this is the place that he calls instantaneity and eternity. And he said, this is really hard for the human mind to grasp this. So we have to use a metaphor. So his metaphor was when we watch a movie, time seems real. And the story seems to make sense within the movie. But what's actually happened in the movie is that all the different scenes have been shot at different times. And what looks like the past in the movie may have just been shot yesterday. And the ending to the movie may have been shot before. So there really isn't a coherent story in eternity in terms of the way that we think of it, because it's all happening everywhere all at once. So the idea of evolution makes no sense when we're looking at things from the eternal viewpoint, from everything happening everywhere all at once. What would the point be? In the dream, there might be evolution, but in consciousness, there's no evolution, right?
Well, you got to be careful about mixing dimensions here, because otherwise that's a perfect way to do a spiritual bypass. If we wanted to deny all that's going on here, that's fine. And I wouldn't call it evolution. You could just call it change of consciousness. Just change is just the other word. That's all there is. It's just change, going from one thing to the other, one thing to the other. And it is a step of prayer. And you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, there is only one invisible power, the invincible power, that's everywhere and omnipresent at all times. That's great. And I've got to pay my grocery bill. I got to do this, that, and the next thing. So I mean, hey, yeah, like it's great to have some sort of a model, but it's also great to go what Indigo says, and I keep going back to that. That is the perfected image, and that's what the journey is. It is about a journey for me. So But it's great to have that, the image. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Francis is totally right. There's nothing else. And that, if it wasn't for that, it would be a dreadful situation we're in. If it wasn't for that.
Yep. Yep. All right. So I want to finish this up. Thank you, John. I don't want to cut you off. I just want to just finish this final point because it does get to what you just said. So Francis says there are two kinds of freedom, right? And I want to find, he says there is freedom to and freedom from. So freedom to is the freedom to create infinitely and eternally. And freedom from is the first freedom that he says it's the first freedom we conquer on this path. And that is freedom from fear. The freedom to know that everything that happens in this display is from divine creation. Right? It's the understanding that what we are is beyond space and time. So that's freedom from. So the freedom to create and the freedom from the dream, essentially. Right? He says, this is liberation. This is liberation. But he says, then, and this is what John was talking about, then there is the display of our creations. And that's what we're in here. We are consciousness displaying itself in all of its manifestation and all of its creation. And this is where he gets to the tantric interpretation, which is that which arises in material form is consciousness, it is us, and we can have our field day with it. We can enjoy it. It is what we are, right? So then he quotes an Indian scholar, Abhinavagupta, and some of you may know this more than I do. He describes the path. He's a poet, and he says, now that you have your freedom, which is the freedom from and the freedom to, enjoy the display of your divine energy. That's the freedom to know that everything that happens is your creation. And Francis says that's an extraordinary serendipity. And that's the true place of will in consciousness. So, William, you're up next.
I find that I just reside in I don't know. I don't know. It's such a, I love the freedom to and the freedom from. I don't use the freedom to. I just hide out in the freedom from. And I don't know the difference between consciousness and awareness because it seems like I use awareness after the fact. And consciousness it's God. So I just see, I take the easy way out. It's like I give up. God's in charge, the moment in charge. Life is in charge, whatever it is. I don't know. So it's like I don't want to know. I don't want to be responsible. I don't want, like I'm stuck at, I'll do it wrong. It won't matter. There's no way to understand it. I'll never understand it. It's such a, and it's like I base everything. See, I just, everything's happening. So to me, I don't have to figure anything out because that's my simple solution or whatever that is. And it could be right or wrong, but see, I don't have to know. I don't know. I really don't know. I just keep it's almost like I can't know, so I don't know. And I just go round and around. Okay, so whatever happens, I'm not in charge. And yet my ego sure plays like I'm in charge. But the truth is, no, no, no. God is in charge. In this moment, it's only now, now, now that's in charge. Whoever, whatever. I, it's like it doesn't, I don't bring clarity. I don't bring inspiration. I don't bring anything. See, it's just that, oh, I'm just stuck here in this moment and everything is the way it is. And and then I get caught up in the story, 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 the pause that I create. And that's where the awareness seems. So it's all mixture, but then I did, okay, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have to know. It's just happening, happening. So I don't experience freedom. You all talk about freedom. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Looks good, sounds good. I don't know. And I love how you all can summarize these things and use the logic and understand each other. And sometimes I think I understand, and then I don't know. And I love that there's no cause and effect. It's just now, now. Don't you have to try to connect? And even predestined. Well, that's already a done deal anyway. So I tell you, see, I haven't added one speck of whatever to this whole conversation. And all I bring is, and yet sometimes in the moment, I don't have to be. I don't exist. I just love. I love the moment. And I chuckle. That's my out. And is that freedom? It feels like it, but no, really, it's just in this moment, the chuckle comes, the good feeling comes. Okay, so be it. I'm not in charge. I don't know. I don't ask me for anything. And it's like I'm so afraid of being wrong that my whole life is avoiding being wrong. And one way to do that is I don't know anything. So I can't be wrong. I'm just wrong about not know. I don't know. So I love the feeling. And then wait a minute, there's more to life than the feeling. So again, I'm wrong about that. Well, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to run and hide now. I came out of hiding for a moment, and now I'm going to go hide. And it's perfect. It's not my fault. Not your. Okay, but let's just have fun. That's my. Okay, and now that's perfect. Oh, that's just the way it is. Now is always the now. Okay.
Well, thank you. That was just a perfect manifestation of what is, right? And you that's exactly what that was. You know, you're being consciousness expressing itself, and it's in complete agreement with what Francis said, because he said most people think there's a certain amount of freedom on the level of the individual, but that is not true. It's only consciousness that decides. All events are cosmic events, and all come from freedom, freedom, which is universal. And he said, that's all I know.
Well, can I got two words, being honest and now. Those two words, honest now. That's the best I can do.
I think it's good enough. Thank you. Works for me. I think it works for all of us here too. Mel, you're up next.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, yeah, William, I think Jenny Beal always was, living and not knowing. So that not knowing is what. And anyway, I also loved how, you mentioned that preordained from beyond a from a place beyond time. And he mentioned, eternity and I never heard this, instantaneity, I guess, instantaneity. I just love that because you have the sense of eternity, which is unchanging, ever presence. And then that instantaneity, which means every moment is new, is fresh, is recreated. Everything is constantly being recreated from a one source. So all of our interactions, every moment is an integrated sort of expression of love. I just love that. This is so cool. And then he mentioned that divine will is manifested as the individual will. So when we appear to be making a decision, that's really the divine will coming through us, expressing itself. So it was just so beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you. And the tantric interpretation, which is that we can love that manifestation, right? We can just love it for all it's worth and express it in whatever seemingly individuated form it expresses in. I love that. I think he says Ananda, which is the bliss, is the enjoyment of consciousness by consciousness, right? So it's the enjoyment of the apparent individual by the infinite expression that manifests as that individual. I love that. Thank you, Mel. Livy.
So what came to my mind is this takes away judgment, meaning that I had a friend who knew someone who was in prison for killing someone. And what he had never harmed a soul before in his life. He came home from work one day and found his wife in bed with another man, and he didn't even think. He just killed the man barehanded. There was no thought, crimes of passion, where there's no real thought process. It's just a reaction to an event that ended in a death.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I hear things like that, to where there was no conscious thought, it was just a reaction to a situation. And if consciousness is everything and doing everything, then who am I to judge anything as good or bad? Because I don't actually know. And so it really helps with any kind of judgment that I may have towards another being, and that's just something that occurred to me. So it's, any situation that really takes away the judgment of it being good or bad, because I don't know why that happened. It doesn't mean, again, like in our previous conversations this week, I'm very grateful that my heart can break and that there are tears and I can be sad when I hear about things like that. The person that was killed could have been someone that I knew very close to me, and to still be able, hopefully, to stand back, and so it's just to sort of bring it into a real life sort of situation. Isn't that funny? Quote unquote, real life situation, that it brings that up.
Yes,
Am I willing to allow the love to come through me without resisting and without judgment? And so I just wanted to mention that. So thanks.
thank you. I know Patricia has got her hand raised. I just wanted to say that for many of us, this realization that there's only consciousness brings up or can bring up a sense of almost isolation in the eternal wholeness. It can bring up this sense that what's the point, and a sort of nihilism. And I just want to address that because I think that for many folks, this is a field they cannot cross. If consciousness is everything, and consciousness is everything, then consciousness is eternal and is having an experience that in which it may suffer unspeakable loss in terms of for those of us who are in form and feel limited by form. But for consciousness, it's a different experience, for lack of a better way of explaining it. And words are limiting. Words are so limiting. And so in order to understand and not go into the diminishment of the manifestation because of the recognition that it's all the eternal big S self, then we have to sort of come back and complete the circle fully, recognizing that Christ's first commandment is that you do unto others as you would have them do unto you, because you are doing unto yourself. And for those of us in this limited understanding, as William put it so well, I don't know everything. In this experience, I can understand that I am consciousness because I can have that direct knowing by going in. I can have that. I can be aware that I am that awareness. But that's as far as I can go. As Francis said, beyond that, I don't really know. But if that's what I am, and that's what you are, then I can only do harm unto myself. And I can make that choice and choose not to do that. Even knowing that I am not the one making the choice, that it's consciousness choosing not to harm itself. Right? And this is why it gets so sticky for us, and it gets confusing for us. So all we're doing today is trying to have a discussion about what all this means, right? And so feel free and be free to raise your questions and have your, say what you need to say, because that's what we're here for. And with that, I will shut up and call on Patricia.
Thank you, Amy. You never need to shut up as far as I'm concerned. So one of the things that I've been doing lately is I've really been exploring what self and no self means from a Buddhist perspective. I'm really kind of studying that right now. And I don't understand it, of course, except when I simplify it and land the plane, so to speak, when I just take all of my thinking and just let it go, because that's what it is. Everything arises and then it dissipates. It's like the wind. It comes up into the wind and it's blown away. So if I can be concrete on this, that's one of the ways that it helps me to understand. It's understanding that both are true. I don't know if I'm going to make stuffed chicken tonight, or maybe pasta with Brussels sprouts, or whatever. I don't know yet. And it's okay not to know, because it'll be something. Pardon me. So then I will concentrate on that. And so my concentration is on one thing, and my mind will wander and come back because I don't want to chop my fingers off. And I may listen to music, I may not. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about this. And I think that's what Francis was talking about. It's like, go with the flow, folks. Land the plane and go with the flow. Do we have free will? Yeah, I don't know. I'll decide. My free will decide what I'm going to make for dinner because I don't know yet. But the important part is I don't need to know. It will arise. And then it will dissipate, and tomorrow will come, or pardon me, this evening will come, and we'll see what happens then. Because I just don't know. But I can do it with awareness. Because if I don't do it with awareness, I could chop off a finger. And I'm not willing to do that. So I choose that. That's my free will. Anyway, I could talk on and on. I'll be quiet.
Thank you. Thank you. William, then Mel, and then John.
I don't know what you mean when you say all there is consciousness. Because like the fellow that killed that guy in his bed with his wife, was he really having free will, or was that all the past conditioning? Was he even responsible for that? What does consciousness mean? Is it just awareness? But is awareness after the fact? Now I'm aware of everything. So I guess I don't really know when people use consciousness, which time frame are they talking about? Is it the now? Is that just the same thing as God is in charge of everything now, 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 now? So
Well,
just a minute.
let's look at that, William. You already know the answer to this question, but I'll just ask it rhetorically. But is there any other time but now?
See, not to me. So
Where would the past be if there's a past? Where is it?
so for me, there's no free will now. It is a done deal. I'm playing catch up. I bring my awareness after that pause. I extend the pause and I make a story out of it. But when people say it's just consciousness, consciousness knows everything.
Consciousness and awareness are often used interchangeably.
I understand it, but I see that I'm not using them interchangeably at times when it serves me. And
So
that's when I think,
I
go
see,
ahead,
I
go ahead,
see.
go ahead.
So
Yeah,
when
anyway,
you say I am aware, then are you meaning that in the personal I is aware?
must be.
Yeah.
Or no, there is awareness going on, and I love it when I'm not that image. There's just awareness, awareness, awareness. Now that makes more sense. There's just consciousness now, now, now. No person, no person. That makes sense. There's freedom.
If we look for the person when we say I am aware, if we look for the person, where is the person?
Yeah. And I'm feeling so much better that more and more I'm getting distance. I'm just finding there's awareness and there's no person. Oh wow. And then back into the person. Did you see that?
Yeah, it's habitual. It's memory and habitual. If we look at what the person is mostly memories and thoughts. It's memories, it's thoughts about the past, mostly thoughts about the past and fear of the future. But when we rest as awareness now, there's no thoughts. And there's no thoughts about the past or thoughts about the future. There's just pure being.
And that's what I'd say awareness in that moment.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And that is real. That is the ground of being. It is more real than anything else. It's complete in itself.
And I see this just more story. We're just now describing using words like real.
Yes, that is true. That is true.
And if I may just add one point, what is real and what is not real? What is real to you is different than what's real to me on a finite plane. But in the world of I don't know, it doesn't matter.
We're just trading stories with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Just words.
All right, all right. Yeah, I want to, it's okay to trade stories because we're sharing, right? We're communicating, we're sharing, we're being together, right? And that's okay.
Yes.
That's all right.
It's even fun.
Yeah, it's gentle. We be gentle with each other. So Mel, you're up next.
Oh, well, thanks. This is kind of off the wall, but doesn't it say, that which is real cannot be threatened and that which is unreal